Have you ever started a garden project and halfway through realized it's more complicated than it looked? Or maybe you've stood in your yard, wondering, could I actually build something beautiful here with my own hands? Well, you're in the right place. Welcome to Home and Garden Borneo, where every project is crafted to be real, doable, and inspiring. This video is all about simple raised garden bed ideas, from mistakes to masterpieces. Use the timestamps to jump to the part you need, and if there's any section you'd like to see turned into a full DIY tutorial, just let me know in the comments. I'll post the detailed walkthroughs right here on the community tab just for you. Maybe to you, I'm just another face on a screen. But behind these videos is a quiet story, one of hope, dirt under fingernails, and dreams built one garden bed at a time. This isn't just content. It's a piece of my life. Every like, every comment, every subscribe, it keeps this journey going. When you subscribe, you're not just supporting a channel. You're helping a small family chase something real. One seed, one step, one shared idea at a time. Thank you for being here. Thank you for seeing the heart behind the screen. One, grounded in stone, lifted by intention. There's something quietly noble about building with your hands, not for grandeur, but for purpose. In this garden, shaped not by machines or architects, but by determination and weekend effort, the stones rise with intention. Each one tells of time spent aligning, leveling, adjusting, and yes, sometimes redoing. The first garden bed wraps gently around the porch, its curved wall a dance of tumbled stone, rough in texture, warm in tone. The soil, rich and dark, freshly turned, hugs the base of a red maple like a comforting hand. Just beyond, a pair of garden tools lean as if pausing mid-conversation. They speak of work, of sun, of simplicity. The soft morning light is not staged, it just is. A scene many of us could create ourselves, with patience and an honest afternoon. As we move to the second view, the structure becomes bolder. Blocky Keystone-style bricks, stacked square in formation, form a rectangular raised bed that feels grounded and confident. Plants, small now, hold the promise of green abundance. There's no perfection here, and that's what makes it real. Edges slightly misaligned, dirt still soft from the final layer. This isn't a showroom. It's your backyard, your start, your hands in the earth. These are not blueprints, but sparks, humble ideas that may light your way toward creating something of your own. If you're wondering whether this could be done without fancy tools or experience, the answer is yes. What you see is not from a production set. It is the kind of beauty built slowly, honestly. And in the third image, there's elegance in elevation. A terraced wall curves with purpose, stepping up to meet the sloped yard. Nothing here is dramatic, yet it speaks volumes. It speaks of knowing the land, working with it rather than against it. Sunlight casts soft shadows across the bare soil, soon to be filled with blooms and life. Each layer was laid not to impress, but to endure through seasons, weather, and time. Let this serve as a gentle reminder. You don't need perfect conditions to begin. This video doesn't claim to be the definitive method, but simply shares grounded, achievable concepts. Every stone set here was done with tools you likely already own, or can borrow. These are practical, soul-satisfying ideas, made not to trend, but to last. If you've been waiting for a sign to start your own raised bed project, consider this it. Not because it's flawless, but because it's possible. And possibility, that's where the real garden begins. Two terraces of intention. Sometimes, the land speaks first. A gentle slope, a patch of grass too steep for chairs but too inviting to ignore. That's where these raised beds begin, not from extravagance, but from the simple desire to make use of what nature gives. In the first image, a trio of neatly stacked garden beds follows the incline of a quiet front yard. The lines are crisp, the bricks clean and uniform, yet there's a soft charm to the way each level holds its space. Plants rise in formation, small now but full of green promise. You can imagine a homeowner, sleeves rolled, kneeling in the dirt, not aiming for perfection, just progress. This design isn't complex. It doesn't demand a team or expensive machinery. If anything, it invites anyone with a weekend and a bit of persistence to give it a try. Of course, what you see here is simply a suggestion, an idea offered with care. It's meant to inspire, not instruct. And I believe this kind of beauty is well within reach for many of us. The next photo tells a slightly different story. The stones are larger, more rustic. They feel older somehow, even if they were just laid down yesterday. The tiers rise more gradually, curving with the slope of the earth like a natural extension of the hillside. There's mulch tucked neatly between the layers, soil dark and rich, and that one vibrant shrub near the top level steals the eye for a moment before you notice the man sitting in the background, perhaps reflecting on what he just built. There's honesty here. You can almost feel the ache in his back, the reward in his heart. This garden didn't come from a catalogue. It came from effort, from planning, from trial and error. It's not perfect, and it doesn't need to be. It's real. And it works. Just like your yard can, too, if you're willing to let the ideas take root. And then, the final raised bed, more geometric, more intentional in its layering. Squares within squares, the structure seems to rise like a ziggurat of growth. Plants rest in measured clusters, and while the space is clearly organized, it doesn't feel rigid. There's a quiet generosity in the openness between blocks, in the honest exposure of soil waiting to be planted. Perhaps that's the point. A garden bed doesn't need to shout. It can simply wait for sunlight, for rain, for your hands to return with a spade. This isn't a professional landscaping guide. I'm just sharing what I find beautiful, achievable, and hopeful. If these photos encourage you to sketch your own layout or gather a few bricks this weekend, then that's all the purpose they need to serve. You don't need to be a builder to build something meaningful. Start where the ground begins to shift, where the slope becomes an opportunity. Build something steady, build something that holds, and let it grow from there. Three, where the line meets the ground. Before the first stone is laid, before soil is turned and roots find home, there is a quiet phase. A time where we measure, mark, and imagine. This part, though often skipped in flashy tutorials, is where a strong garden truly begins. In the first image, for wooden stakes rise from freshly loosened earth. Bright yellow string stretches between them, humming with tension, not just from its pull, but from the possibility it outlines. This is not just a box in the dirt. It's a plan. A quiet boundary drawn between what is and what could be. The grass around is uneven. The soil underneath, lumpy and raw. But that's the beauty of starting something real. It's never perfectly smooth. And that's okay. You don't need perfection to proceed. You only need a reference line and the patience to work with it. Moving to the second frame, the work has deepened. Quite literally. A trench, carefully dug, stretches in straight determination through the yard. Tools lie scattered like punctuation marks in a sentence still being written. A level rests nearby, checking, not commanding, the earth beneath. There's sincerity in these lines, in the imperfections that remind us. This isn't about flawless technique, but honest effort. Every scoop of soil moved, every slight recalibration of the string. It tells a story of learning in motion. And if you're wondering whether this is something you can do yourself, let this reassure you. The answer is yes. This video does not aim to present professional instruction, but rather share a series of real, simple ideas that just make sense to try on your own. And in the final view, the story returns to its geometry. Strings now form a clear rectangle, and a bright level tool rests confidently inside. The lines are sharper now, straighter, as though the vision has caught up with the intent. Around the scene, sunlight warms the dirt and highlights the stakes. The tools are inexpensive, the steps approachable, and the satisfaction? Quite real. This is the part of the project that doesn't get applause. But without it, the rest would never stand. Let these quiet images remind you that progress begins in the setup, in the lines you pull tight, in the patience you give to the groundwork. And even if it's your first time holding a level or tying off a string line, that's more than enough. You don't need perfection to start. You need intention and a willingness to step into the dirt. What you've seen here is not a formula, but an offering, a grounded, achievable method, one that may not look glamorous, but it works, and it welcomes you, just as you are, to begin. Four, beneath the surface. Before beauty shows itself in flowers and foliage, it often hides in the foundation, in the unseen layers of sand, stone, and effort. A quiet beginning that ensures everything above will stand steady, season after season. The first photo captures this beginning with a sort of reverence. A golden layer of coarse sand lies freshly spread, like a canvas awaiting its first stroke. To the left, a red bucket rests beside soil mounded in the wake of excavation. And off to the right, pavers begin to align, whispering the outline of something soon to rise. It's a moment of in-between, not quite structure, but no longer raw earth. Laying this foundation isn't glamorous. There are no blooms, no bursts of color, just patience, consistency, and yet, this is where your garden's future strength is born. A small compactor stands nearby, ready to tamp the base firm. The kind of tool you can rent on a weekend, just like anyone else with a patch of land and a bit of intention. As we shift to the second frame, the raised bed begins to take form. Its edges are clear now. Brick by brick, the border defines a space, a promise of soil yet to come. The sand within has been leveled, its surface like brushed suede under the soft light. And though this scene looks composed, you can still see the story of its making. Stray blocks, fine dust at the corners, and quiet evidence of hands that have worked. Let me be clear, this is not professional instruction. It's a visual offering, a suggestion rooted in experience. Something grounded, approachable, made to inspire those who've wondered whether they, too, can shape something lasting with their own tools. The answer is yes. And then comes the third moment. Gravel is poured in a shallow line, a supporting layer under all that will follow. Nearby, a mound of golden sand waits to be raked, spread, and compacted. Flowers bloom in the background, seemingly unaware of the precision and care that is forming just feet away. The contrast is beautiful. Nature and preparation side by side. One wild, the other measured. And in that balance, a real garden is born. If you're watching this and thinking, could I do that? Consider this your nudge. You don't need a landscaping crew or fancy plans. What you need is a start. A rake, a string line, a few buckets of base material. And perhaps the reminder that building something durable often begins with things that look simple. Not every garden story begins with planting. Sometimes, it begins with leveling the ground beneath your feet. Five, the arc of intention. There's something quietly poetic about a curve. It softens the geometry of a yard, turning straight lines into something that feels more like flow than form. In the first image, a gentle arc begins to take shape. A wall of square-cut keystone blocks, dry-fitted onto compacted soil. Shadows stretch long from the tools scattered around, grounding the moment in the warmth of real effort. This isn't symmetry born of blueprints. It's shaped by eye, by hand, by heart. The alignment may not be flawless, but it breathes honesty. Each block whispers of trial and adjustment, of hands lifting and relifting to get things just right enough. For anyone watching, know this isn't about precision, it's about persistence. And the best part? You can absolutely do this yourself, if you're open to learning as you go. The second frame brings us forward, from raw earth to living structure. The wall now fully formed, cradling a rich bed of soil, dotted with green life. It sits confidently under the golden hue of early evening light, its corners crisp, its form solid. This garden bed is no longer potential, it's present. A quiet structure ready to hold vegetables, herbs, or whatever hopes you place within it. Notice the mulch, the moisture still in the dirt, and how sunlight curls around the edge like it belongs there. You don't need a landscaping crew to build this, just a free weekend and a bit of vision. This content isn't a blueprint, but an offering, a visual idea grounded in simplicity, shared in the hope that it resonates with someone eager to start small and grow something meaningful. Then there's the final image, minimal, earthy, beautiful in its humility. A border of pale, irregular stones holds in a patch of bright, leafy greens. Flowers bloom in casual order, like guests at a friendly gathering. The stones aren't forced into uniformity. They rest with ease. And in their imperfection, they feel entirely natural. Here, we're reminded that gardening doesn't need to be grand. It needs only to be honest. A simple layout, a few rooted cuttings, a quiet afternoon, these are enough. If you're searching for permission to begin, let this be it. You are more than capable of making a space like this. Let the curve be your guide. It doesn't demand perfection, only movement, only care. 6. Cracking stone, creating space. There's a quiet defiance in choosing to do things by hand, to break stone without a saw, to let rhythm and patience replace speed and noise. In the first image, we see that moment, a hammer suspended mid-swing and a stone mid-split. Dust scatters into sunlight, caught like sparkles in the air. There's something elemental here, like fire meeting earth, but gentler, more personal. This is not just about breaking a block. It's about shaping space. With each strike, you're not just adjusting size, you're making it yours. The stone doesn't need to split perfectly. The edge doesn't have to be clean. In fact, the imperfections are what make it feel authentic, like it belongs in your garden, not a catalog. And while this isn't a tutorial, it is a glimpse into a process you can try yourself. This video shares not instructions, but honest, workable inspiration. As we move to the second frame, the dust has settled. A single block rests under evening light, crossed by two cold chisels like a quiet X marking the spot. The fracture line is visible, waiting. This is the kind of setup anyone can create. No table saw, no heavy gear. Just stone, steel, and resolve. You can almost hear the gentle tap-tap-tap echo across the yard, patient and rhythmic. It's worth noting, this method takes time. It takes a feel, not for perfection, but for the nature of the stone, for where it wants to break. The process doesn't demand skill as much as it asks for attention. And then, we come to the last image, where strength meets subtlety. A chisel is driven gently into a thick slab, balanced atop a wooden block. The stone has already begun to yield, thin lines blooming outward like veins. Around the workspace, fragments of rock rest where they fell. It's messy. It's beautiful. This is how edges are shaped, not just in gardens, but in our lives too. Slowly, imperfectly, with effort and will. If you've ever wondered whether you can shape your own garden bed, cut your own stone, or create your own design, yes, you can. These methods were chosen not because they are the fastest or cleanest, but because they are real, realistic, doable. And that's the kind of idea worth sharing. Let your hands do the talking. Let your work be shaped by what you have, not what you lack. And trust that even a cracked stone, split by a quiet hand, can become part of something beautiful. Seven, landscape adhesive tips for solid garden builds. In the golden hush of a late afternoon, a simple line of adhesive wins its way across a row of stone blocks, like melted sunlight poured with care. A steady hand, gloved not just for protection but as a symbol of commitment, presses the nozzle gently. One squeeze, and the glue beads into motion, thick, deliberate, and slightly uneven, ready to bond the garden's foundation with unseen strength. Behind the scene, the ground is imperfect, as all things natural tend to be. Bits of dust cling to stone edges, a bucket rests casually in the backdrop, and shadows from passing clouds soften the tone of the soil. There's no filter here, just honesty, the kind that comes from weekend work and the rhythm of building something by hand. Adhesive, while often overlooked, plays the quiet role of guardian. It keeps the tears of your raised bed from shifting with time, especially when the rains come and the earth settles. In this moment, the stones do not need to be perfect. They only need to hold. And this method, layering each block with a touch of landscape glue, is both practical and forgiving. What you see here is a project anyone can attempt. I'm simply sharing ideas that are grounded and doable, creative visions that might spark your own journey, tailored to your space, your hands, your time. No grand production behind this, just the subtle reality of what could be, captured as it unfolds. So if you've been wondering how to build a garden bed that stands firm through the seasons, this might be your answer. Not flashy, not complicated, just a glue line, a stone wall, and the belief that even the smallest backyard deserves something strong and beautiful. Eight landscape adhesive tips for solid garden builds. There's something grounding about the gentle press of stone against stone, especially when your own hands guide it into place. As the golden afternoon sun stretches long shadows across the soil, a simple yet powerful trick begins to unfold: the use of landscape adhesive. With each squeeze of the glue, there's a quiet assurance. A subtle line, thick and steady, seeps onto the top layer of dusty stone blocks. These aren't just bricks anymore. They're the foundation of something enduring. This method, while unassuming, adds remarkable strength to your raised garden bed. No mortar, no heavy tools, just intention and adhesion. The glue dries invisible to the eye but never to the integrity of your design. And yes, sometimes the adhesive oozes a bit, or the rocks don't line up perfectly. That's part of its charm, evidence of real hands crafting real projects, not perfect images from a filtered screen. Some might ask, does this really hold? For many gardeners, the answer has echoed through countless seasons. This technique stands strong against time, wind, and the shifting moods of weather. And it's not about making a fortress, but a frame, sturdy enough to house life, but simple enough for anyone to build. I want to gently remind you, this is not a blueprint, but an idea, a spark, if you will. What I'm showing here is merely one path of inspiration, grounded in reality and meant to be followed or adapted however you see fit. The magic is not in doing it exactly the same, but in making it your own. As the stones settle into place and the adhesive sets beneath them, there's a stillness that wraps around the moment. It's the feeling of progress, the quiet thrill of building something meaningful from the ground up, with nothing more than your hands, patience, and a bit of glue. Nine landscape adhesive tips for solid garden builds. In the quiet rhythm of a sunny afternoon, the scent of dry earth mingles with purpose. You kneel close to the stone wall, gloved hands steady, and squeeze a thick line of adhesive across the top of a weathered block. There's a kind of serenity in this moment, a bond not just between stones, but between vision and creation. The glue glistens briefly before it settles into the textured grain of the stone, catching the light like a ribbon of effort made visible. This is no cinematic perfection, no filtered illusion, just the honest hand of someone building something with care. The walls may not be precisely level, the edges might not align perfectly, but what rises here is real, and it will stand strong. Using landscape adhesive instead of mortar makes this process accessible. It's a method that requires patience rather than precision, confidence rather than tools. And with every stone placed, every seam pressed together with firm, trusting pressure, a sense of permanence forms. If you're watching and wondering whether this could be you, yes, it absolutely can. This video offers no miracle formula, only down-to-earth ideas that many have found surprisingly doable. This is not a guide to perfection, but a whisper of encouragement to begin, to build, to believe in the strength of your own hands. Just remember, this is simply one way among many, shared here as an inspiration, an example of what's possible with time, intention, and a bit of adhesive that holds more than just blocks together. Easy landscape fabric and mulching for flower beds. In the quiet rhythm of backyard mornings, there's something grounding about laying the foundation for beauty. The fabric you see here, simple, black, and almost humble, is more than a mere layer. It is the unseen protector, guarding your soil from weeds that creep in with time. You don't need fancy tools or complex techniques. Just patience, care, and a vision of how your garden could be. Neat, healthy, and enduring. As mulch begins to spill from gloved hands, a rich brown tapestry takes form over the fabric. It smells earthy and fresh, almost like a whisper of the forest floor. The mulch not only nourishes and insulates the soil below, it also completes the aesthetic, giving each flower bed a clean, intentional finish. And while some edges are still rough, a corner of the fabric peeks through, or a stray leaf dances over the mulch, these imperfections remind us that beauty lives in progress, not just perfection. A rake rests quietly on the grass nearby, the sun catching its tines. It's a subtle nudge that this is a work in progress, yours to shape slowly over afternoons of gentle labor. This isn't just a garden bed. It's a place where intention meets action, where a bit of fabric and mulch transform into the beginnings of a vibrant sanctuary. Please note, the ideas shared here are meant as simple, inspiring guides, thoughtful and practical steps that can be recreated at home with patience and care. You don't need to be a pro to bring them to life. Just a little time and a willingness to try. So if you're looking for that one small project to begin your journey with the soil, this is a beautiful place to start. One layer at a time. Front yard curb appeal with DIY raised beds. There's a quiet magic in the way a front yard can greet the world. Not with grandeur, but with simplicity. Neat rows of bricks, a frame of green, and a gentle burst of color tucked inside a humble raised bed. These kinds of spaces don't just happen. They're built slowly, patiently, one stone at a time. In this first scene, you can see how curved stone blocks cradle a cluster of cheerful blooms. The flowers are neither extravagant nor styled. They grow in the way a smile spreads, naturally. There's mulch beneath, and the stonework isn't perfect, but that's precisely what makes it feel real. A driveway runs beside it, and a mailbox quietly stands guard. Everyday elements that anchor this design in the life we all recognize. This isn't just a garden. It's a welcome mat in full bloom. Further along, another raised bed nestles between twin doorways, framed by tidy hedges and a simple brick path. Red, yellow, and white flowers dance under a shy morning light. Look closely, and you'll notice the imperfections. A slightly uneven border, the soft lean of a paver. These human fingerprints remind us that beauty doesn't need to be flawless. It just needs to be made with intention. And then, there's the broad corner bed, hugging the house in a wide embrace. The wall here is sturdier, the pattern tighter, but the soul is the same. Color, structure, and care. Petunias and begonias add pops of joy to the mulch's dark base, all against the backdrop of siding and shadows. It's the kind of transformation that doesn't shout for attention, but quietly changes everything about how a home feels, from the curb and from within. What you see here is not a designer blueprint or a manicured magazine cover. These are genuine examples of what anyone can build with their hands. A bit of time and a lot of heart. And while every garden is different, the spirit behind each one remains the same. A desire to make space for something beautiful and to share it. Please note that these are simply ideas to inspire your own journey. Everything shown is meant to be practical and realistically doable for the average homeowner using real materials and a DIY spirit. Fixing DIY mistakes. Garden bed leveling secrets. Sometimes, the garden doesn't cooperate. The string line dips just slightly, the spirit level disagrees, and what you imagined as a smooth morning project turns into a quiet moment of contemplation. In this photo, we witness that very real stage, a humble pause where the vision meets the earth's resistance. The trench is dug, the tools are set, but the frustration is real. It's in this space, however, that gardening becomes more than just building. It becomes learning and adjusting. Here, we're reminded that leveling a raised bed is not always about getting it right the first time. It's about paying attention, stepping back, and trying again. Whether the ground shifts or your measurements mislead you, know that every correction made with your own hands brings you closer to a garden you'll be proud of. As shown in the next image, rebuilding is not failure, it's refinement. Bricks are moved, reset, tested with the level once more. The tools lie scattered, like witnesses to the effort, but each one has served its purpose. In this scene, there's no perfection, and that's precisely what makes it beautiful. These bricks don't have to align like a machine laid them. They just need to hold your soil, support your blooms, and carry the story of your effort. What matters most is the intention. Maybe your first trench wasn't as deep on one end. Perhaps a stone shifted as you stood up. This is all part of the process. And if you find yourself needing to dig back down, readjust, or simply take a breath, that's not a detour. That's the work. By the third frame, progress is evident. The blocks sit more securely now, the line straighter, the spirit level content. The bed, still under construction, now holds promise rather than confusion. This isn't cinematic, it's practical. This is what DIY truly looks like. Smudged gloves, dusty boots, trial and error etched into every shovel's worth of dirt. And if you're watching this, wondering if you could do the same, you can. This series simply aims to offer real-world inspiration that's grounded in effort and authenticity. No elaborate edits, no studio magic. Just the kind of honest, hands-in-the-dirt work you can try at home. Let this remind you, perfection isn't the point. Progress is. If this video meant something to you, Please know that subscribing means the world to me. You're not just supporting content. You're supporting a dream that keeps my family going. Thank you, truly. I'd also love to hear from you. What did you enjoy the most? Is there anything I could do better to keep inspiring or simply entertaining you? Your feedback helps this channel grow with heart and purpose. Let me know in the comments. I read every one.